I'm going to be making this lecture tape with my iPhone because my desktop has crashed. Hopefully, if it cools off, I'll be able to get it up and running again. Otherwise, I'm stuck using my iPhone from here on because my desktop, my computer crashed as well as my laptop. So I'm also itemizing a little bit. They are afraid to talk about what they've seen and record pictures of, because Israelis are executing people in possession of, they're executing journalists and people doing ordinary documentation. So we have to do our level best to pick up the pieces. In Seattle, they have been proving themselves friendly to Zionist lockdown. So in discovering that Zionism is consciously being copied as a brother of Nazism, we have to carefully approach delegates and law enforcement as well as friends and peers. And there's an insane lockdown on my work from the rock stars in Britain who are murdering people and then trying to connect the dot to me, who has no weapons and no interest in murder. They're criminally insane individuals. And one of the things we know from observing the lunatic fringe of Ono and her Texas queers is that the lunatic fringe came up with a nuclear attack over abortion. Yes, that is what is going on, and I'm going to prove it to you. The least the sheriffs of our counties could do is acknowledge that this has happened. But they're allowing Ono to play this very disturbing pornography game of saying, no, Mr. Curry, you are the war criminal. Our work is cut out for us. We have to evict Joe Biden and put him on Nuremberg trial before the International Criminal Courts, or in Washington, D.C. in a special tribunal. We have to make clear to the delegates in Washington that genocide is not just another crime. Now, what we see is that the entertainment industry attacked us in our public schools, while Bush organized the attack to put on a play to the effect that the 60s didn't have the courage of their own doctrine. The bottom line when it comes to the Sheriff's Association is that I was kidnapped and gassed in a place called King's Estate, which is like King's Heavenly Estate. There was a TikTok video of a Palestinian who went out to find biscuits in a bag with a note from the Zionists that said, take these biscuits with you to heaven. And he cried. Himmelschweg was put on by the Jews in Highland Park or Pittsburgh at a place called King's Estate, which meant King's Heavenly Estate. Himmelschweg is a swastika term meaning the road to heaven. They used it for the ramps of Auschwitz. Now you wonder, why don't the sheriffs go to the city council and say, we're aware of this criminal genocide horror organization map that came from a place called Pitt and CMU under Bush. Pitt like Pit of Hell, CMU like Church Military Union. We are aware of this. We don't know what to do. We don't know what, it's disturbingly being enforced by British rock star eccentrics, a lunatic fringe around Zappa. They're threatening people with bacteriologicals. We're aware of this, but we can't do anything about it. We don't know what to do. Instead, they smile as the puppet stance, as Bush's partner Sinfield would put it. And we're supposed to watch what we say, courage of our own doctrine. Means being silent because when you ask yourself, now, why aren't the Sheriff Association admitting something that's terrible? and asking for guidance from people, supposedly honorable statesmen, men and women in robes, the judiciary, and so on. The reason is very clear, actually. It's because the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is behind the crime. They spit nails when they're told that who I sleep with is none of their business. And one of the things that Hare was involved in, of course, was trying to liberate sex workers to their natural dignity. When we were attacked in our public schools, Roger Waters is a partner of D.W. Griffith's counterfeiting studio system, the big studio systems behind the great dictators now promoting Trump, used the slogan from D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, which he told to the faithful souls, his happy slaves, "You would rather be a slave." And they used child slavery at Fulton Elementary School. So when they say we don't need no education, get people to chant this, it means that they're attacking the public schools, and you would rather be a slave. One of them told me that it was just to get you to pay them to do their farm work for them. And they have this thing called Autumn of the Patriarch, which of course means the white, which is anathema to the leadership councils in Seattle. It's Autumn of the School Bus. We used to try to get everybody together on school buses because we knew that our hope was in freedom from trafficking was in public school education. But the Autumn of the Patriarch means the Autumn of the School Bus. They don't want any. They poison their own routinely. You could see this by reading about Operation Northwoods or looking at Joseph Stalin. Milo Vangelis would set the standard for turning people in, the sort of rustic hillbilly Red Scare stuff that goes on. There's a flip-flop mirror image between Russia and American Red Scare people, even though they put on the Cold War. And they pilfered trillions for warfare from the public purse. They then turn around and preach morality. It's weird Gestapo stuff. So what Waters pulled was evaluated the myths of ideals in the white for a robo-Zion Nazi attack on humanism. Seattle just flushes humanism down the toilet. They won't allow any editorials from a humanist dimension, of course, because of Obama. He's the robo-spinning wheels output. It's like asking artificial intelligence, what will people respond to? When I mean respond to, every single child who's been murdered in Gaza has been murdered in Gaza by a genocidal psychopath named Biden. Every one of them. Now, when we weep for our child dying before our eyes, we feel that. But then we're told, oh, King Crimson will be upset, Roger Waters will be upset. And it goes through the feedback loop of the deep mindset. The deep mindset is what we're supposed to have faith in. The celebrity superstate is a secret service Gestapo. It's true. It's different from the leapfrog oligarchy of the billionaires, which includes black billionaires. Of course, they turn racism on someone like me. But they are working together, the leapfrogs and the celebrity superstate. We saw this morning on TikTok the Hitler Netanyahu preaching Zionist liberation of Africa. Those problems with organ poaching. They gave back 80 Palestinian bodies that were organ poached. In Africa and Vietnam. So liberation means you can go out and poach organs for the Saudi Arabian royal family. And they have Catholic workers. See, What you're seeing in Gaza is nothing so much as Martin Sheen's West Wing at work. Literally. Vince Irene in Pittsburgh works with Clint Eastwood on Prego stories. Oh, she got pregnant. Oh, the baby in the womb. You may have been raped by ISIS, but the baby in your womb will give you redemption. And the feminist Zionist Nazi women of Swarthmore are like laughing. Oh. So you have like Penny Creary and Pramila Jayapal bringing the queers on, saying Ottoman the patriarch, huh? And that's all they understand. I mean, it makes a full tabulation in their psyches. It doesn't have to be spelled out. And they operate from this deep mind. So, for example, Obama and Osama were understood to be synchronized to each other, but people didn't question it. And, you know, Bin Laden, Disney took the rap for 911 when it was Diamond DeGaulle and Cliff Robertson who were behind it. So, and that's proven. And nobody ever talks about the anthrax or the AIDS attack being in the hands of people like Frank Zappa because of Lenin's Houdini. That's essential and that's understood. So what they did was they used the iPhone to reconfigure me sleeping around when they were subjecting the persona to successive degradations of the X motive. The Sheriff's Association will never admit that a person who is being targeted feels it. They will never admit that. I was following the leader, I told Bergeon. He will never admit that I said that. So they released the AIDS virus and they used the pleasure principle for the Himmelschweg, the road to heaven, is violin music for you, buddy boy. So the Catholic Prego scene was a nuclear ultimatum against abortion, and the Seattle queers are like, hey, don't preach to us, buddy boy. Don't preach to us, buddy boy. And they have the Zion Nazis leadership. This is what they're playing. And none dare call it Chomsky. In Pittsburgh, we had a newsstand, which is like he used to work at, where these letters from Gail Burston emerged as a Trumpy tune argument about liberalism. And we have here in Tacoma 1122, huge letters, Highland Park Road, which Highland Park of Pittsburgh is where these letters emerged. 1122 is huge. It's, you know, they're advertising that they're making an argument about the assassination of the Kennedys. I don't understand why the Kennedys aren't on it. The evidence that Jacqueline Kennedy was involved is perfectly clear. How many other family intrigues are they covering up? So, Hillary pegged Clinton, says we don't understand Hamas, but we understand the Jewish establishment. The Jewish establishment were backblades in Pittsburgh. They were ripping off the museums. They were making stories about mayors in plague time while releasing the AIDS virus. They had up a kabuki theater set up with Schwarzenegger called Greta Thunberg. Internal affairs is of the essence. Serpico and Putin have to be discovered as grindstones that have to be academically parsed to understand what goes on when, like Osama bin Laden, if you run that through the oral feedback loop of the deep mind that makes celebrities overgastingly important. The oral feedback loop of the deep mind, you get Osama. Sama means super polite. It's also an acronym for Greg Carl's screed about two birds with pussy ball. Structuralist approach to musical analysis. SAMA, super polite. In other words, prime code of pussy sex experience, right? Obama, bin Laden, and they turn on the radio, right? Bin Sin radio, you know. So what they did was that they gave a Midori to the black man in the sociopathic Alan Parsons Project. That were openly in Pittsburgh, they correlated the whole thing. It was called Artec. And they came and said, we're going to crash your wedding, queer ball. They have robo-castration. I don't know how many of them, your honors, in King County, Rufus County, had more than one virgin in their lifetime. I don't know how many. But they have took a kid who was a human rights father, humanist, made a robo-human, where you get snipped, calculate, we inject you for two virgins. And the whole revenge script was cooked up. It wasn't found art. They played found art in '79 with a picture of Gail Burstyn on the cover of their records. Fripp's exposure was about found art, right? Environmentals. To set up the poach of their own script, and every detail, like crying in agony from losing the one you love to the Zionists, and it's all, they talk about they're macho, but they're really girly, man. They're gossipy. The woman's calling this Louis Lapham was typing up for Clint Eastwood. Oh, and then Queerball did this, and then Queerball did that. I mean, they're womanly. All of them are womanly, but they're deadly too. They're sex fascists. They're weird sex fascists. Zionists and Nazis were all. And so they built this affinity to Joseph Goebbels where they actually, Robert Fripp's Gurdjieff Society actually said in print that Joseph Goebbels was the patron saint of the Jewish Defense League. And the partners of John Schulman, museum thief in Pittsburgh from the NAACP, came saying, yeah, damn right, warriors for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Murdered my father. They didn't care anything about it. And then they said, my iPhone proves me unfit. Why? Because the black man has to know who you're sleeping with. As a justification for the AIDS attack. While ripping us off for trillions of dollars rather than building echo schools. Then they have, emotional African Christians who don't connect the dots, using connect the dots as their slogan. They can't see that back in 1980, I was appealing publicly for starvation assistance to Africa. It was clear in print. And they pretend like they don't see that because the black man has a new game called robo-humanism, where he gets the oil. Osama bin Laden, ha ha ha. Obama bin Laden, ha ha ha. And they think, and the sheriffs gurgle to this. The sheriffs sit there going like this: we're going to do a nuclear attack on abortion. We're going to help for example, and the queers aren't going to inject us. They're going to inject Jimmy. And so and Louis Lapham says, what if we robo the poet, castrate him and leave him alone, right? Will he metamorphose into androgyny? And see the sacred Dalai Lama of Greta Thunberg, Zion Nazi feminist. So getting rid of Gaza is just what one of the things they're pulling. The leader of this venture, Martin Edelman, has taken over Wells Fargo and sits in direct opposition in the federal building to Patty Murray, whose initials are PM. Ha ha ha. So the black culture just uses me as a sacrifice. That's their whole psychology. They call it black psychology. It's a real spinner beanie thing, And they have this idea, one black guy gets killed. Are you saying it's not a tragedy when one black guy gets killed? I'm saying it's a tragedy when you play pussy ball to an AIDS attack genocide to foil the aspiration of a liberal student to open discussion about ending hunger in Africa. But they say, oh no, the one black man killed, that makes Gaza not our fight. That's not our fight. Well, okay, it's not your fight. That's fine with me. And then they start comparing NAM to Gaza. Oh, it's normal. It's Henry Kissinger. It's normal. It's not normal. There's nothing normal about genocide, Doris. There's nothing normal about genocide, Gudrun. There's nothing normal about genocide, Natalie. There's nothing normal about Netanyahu and Biden. There's nothing normal about these Northwood Stalins. Now, they're afraid to talk about these things, but they had a grade school fight club in Pittsburgh, and I appreciate that the sheriff tipped me off that fight clubs exist. And one of the indicators of this was when Isaiah Curry put a letter opener into Martin Luther King. And a black man killed Dr. King's mother. It's important to realize that when black people talk about racism, a lot of it is playing for time against something they don't understand. And although it's not wise to trust Seattle or Pittsburgh, there's always the small mad hope that some peer or another will stop being criminally insane.